By the autumn of 1944, a harsh truth had become impossible for American tank crews in Europe to ignore. The M4 Sherman, the dependable backbone of the U.S. Army's armored forces, was increasingly outmatched by Germany's Panther and Tiger tanks. Panther panic was real. GIs wrote home in desperation, begging for a machine that could finally level the battlefield. That machine appeared to be the M26 Pershing, a 46-ton behemoth with thick, sloped armor and a powerful 90mm gun. It seemed to be exactly what frontline troops had been praying for. So when America's most famous, most aggressive, and most successful tank commander, General George S. Patton, Jr., was asked for his opinion on the new heavy tank, his response stunned everyone. He didn't want it. In fact, he actively opposed slowing Sherman production to build the Pershing. How could this be? How could old blood and guts, the general who preached constant attack, reject a bigger, more powerful weapon? The answer exposes a deep, controversial, and often misunderstood truth about warfare and about the unique, brilliant mind of America's greatest battlefield commander. To understand Patton's reasoning, we must first understand the terror he appeared to dismiss. The German Panther was a masterpiece of armor design, arguably the finest all-around tank of the war. Its 80mm of slope frontal armor was virtually impervious to the Sherman's standard 75mm gun. At the same time, the Panther's long, high-velocity 75mm cannon could destroy a Sherman from well over a mile away. The M4, with its thin, vertical armor, earned a grim nickname among its crews, the Ronson lighter, because it supposedly lit up the first time every time. It's important to acknowledge the historical debate here. Post-war analysis by historians such as Stephen Zaloga has shown that this reputation was statistically exaggerated. Shermans did not burn more frequently than other tanks. However, their thinner armor meant they were penetrated far more often, increasing the likelihood of internal fires. For the men inside the tank, statistics were meaningless. What mattered was lived reality. In Normandy's hedgerows, average engagement ranges were often just a few hundred yards. But in the open countryside of Lorraine, distances stretched much farther, and at long range, the Panther and Tiger reigned supreme. American tankers felt trapped in steel coffins, forced to rely on flanking attacks and overwhelming numbers, sometimes losing 4 or 5 Shermans to destroy a single Panther. They desperately wanted a tank that could fight on equal terms. The M26 Pershing promised exactly that. So why did Patton resist it? Because Patton was not fighting the same war as his tank crews. George S. Patton was, at heart, the last of the great horse cavalrymen. From his early days chasing Ponchoville in motorized vehicles to his role in shaping American armored doctrine during the interwar years, his understanding of warfare was built on speed, exploitation, and relentless forward momentum. He did not see tanks as slow-moving fortresses meant to trade blows head-on. He saw them as mechanized cavalry. His famous maxim captured this philosophy perfectly. Hold them by the nose and kick them in the pants. Infantry and artillery were to pin the enemy in brutal frontal combat. While the enemy was fixed in place, armored divisions would surge around the flanks, drive deep into the rear, sever supply lines, smash command centers, spread panic, and collapse the enemy's entire system. For this strategy to work, Patton did not need the best tank in a one-on-one duel. He needed the right tank for the team. He needed a vehicle fast enough to exploit a breakthrough, reliable enough not to break down miles behind enemy lines, light enough to cross Europe's aging bridges, and available in such massive numbers that losses could be absorbed without halting the advance. For Patton, the M4 Sherman was unequivocally that tank. His faith in the Sherman was not born of ignorance, but of hard-earned experience. He knew its weaknesses intimately and continually pushed for improvements, most notably the 76mm gun and better ammunition, to increase its battlefield effectiveness. Yet he valued its 3 core strategic virtues above all else. First, and most important to Patton, was reliability. The Sherman, especially his favorite M4A3 variant with its 4-5A engine, was a marvel of mechanical dependability. German tanks, by contrast, were complex, over-engineered machines that were extremely difficult to maintain. Panthers, in particular, suffered from catastrophic mechanical failures. Their final drives often lasted less than 150 kilometers. Patton understood a simple truth. A Tiger with a broken transmission is nothing more than a stationary pillbox. A running Sherman can win a war. Second was speed and mobility. The Sherman could sustain road speeds of 25 to 30 miles per hour, the speed of exploitation, the speed of a cavalry charge. This mobility kept German forces off balance during the rapid advance across France. At roughly 33 tons, the Sherman was also light enough to cross most European bridges without waiting for engineers to build new ones, a critical advantage in a fast-moving campaign. Third, and finally, was numbers. The United States built nearly 50,000 Shermans. Patton understood the brutal arithmetic of attritional warfare. Tanks would be lost. What mattered was the ability to replace them immediately and keep the offensive moving forward, without pause, without hesitation. In a letter to the Ordnance Department, Patton openly praised the Sherman, arguing that its mechanical excellence and its ability to get there first, with the most, was what truly won wars. From that mindset, the M26 Pershing looked very different when viewed through Patton's strictly strategic lens. On paper, it was everything a tanker could want. Its 90mm gun could destroy a Panther head-on, and its armor could withstand hits that would easily penetrate a Sherman. But to Patton, the Pershing represented a strategic liability. At 46 tons, it was roughly 13 tons heavier than the Sherman, creating serious logistical problems. It was too heavy for the standard pontoon bridges used by the Army Corps of Engineers, meaning river crossings would become slow, deliberate, and highly contested operations, the exact opposite of Patton's doctrine of speed and momentum. The Pershing also placed greater strain on transport vehicles and consumed more fuel, a resource Patton was perpetually short of and constantly fighting to secure. Even more concerning was the fact that the Pershing was mechanically improving under combat conditions. The Sherman had been refined through years of war. Its strengths and weaknesses were well understood. The Pershing, by contrast, was a new design with a new engine and transmission that were, in reality, under power for its weight. The last thing Patton wanted during a 200-mile pursuit was for his armored spearhead to stall because of mechanical failures. He preferred a known, reliable machine over a powerful but untested one. Halting Sherman production and retooling factories to build the Pershing in late 1944 would also have caused a significant drop in the number of tanks reaching the front. For Patton, who was always demanding more fuel, more ammunition, more trucks, and more tanks, this was unacceptable. So who was right, Patton or the tank crews desperate for the Pershing? The nuanced answer is that both were right, because they were fighting two different wars. The individual tank crewman was fighting a tactical war of survival. His battlefield extended only a few hundred yards in front of him. His mission was simple and brutal: defeat the enemy tank he faced. For that fight, the M26 Pershing was unquestionably the superior weapon. It gave him a real chance to survive and win a one-on-one duel. Patton, however, was fighting an operational and strategic war. His battlefield was the entire map of Western Europe. His mission was not to win individual tank duels, but to encircle, shatter, and destroy entire German armies. For that purpose, speed, reliability, and mass mattered more than individual superiority. A fast, dependable, and plentiful tank, even one that was weaker in isolation, was a better tool for winning the campaign. Patton was not blind to the Sherman's flaws. He simply believed that its strategic virtues, its ability to keep moving, to sustain momentum, and to win the war as a whole, outweighed its tactical shortcomings. The debate between the Sherman and the Pershing remains a classic lesson in military philosophy: the difference between the best weapon and the best war winner. While the men inside the turrets understandably cursed the Sherman's thin armor, the commander directing a war movement saw it as the key to victory. Patton's preference was not a condemnation of the Pershing, but a reflection of his unwavering faith in high-speed, relentless warfare. He chose a reliable workhorse that could sustain his advance over the powerful thoroughbred that might slow it down. It was a commander's choice, made not for a single battle, but for the entire campaign. So, who do you think was right? Patton, with his focus on strategic mobility, or the tank crews who longed for greater protection and firepower? Let us know in the comments below. And for more deep dives into military history, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.